Roswell, supposedly there's this guy, John Razimus, just to change subject real quick, saying that there's going to be some big announcement he's coming up with next week on the Roswell incident. You know, Roswell, aliens, UFOs, all that stuff. Well, supposedly he's got some evidence, and he is going to announce it next week. So he'll do that next Saturday. Sunday, I'll probably report on it. So if you're interested in hearing anything groundbreaking, supposedly it's going to open up the whole case again and change everything we know about Roswell. So for him to do this is pretty groundbreaking. So if you're interested, yeah, check that out.
John Rasmus here. Welcome to the Roswell Special Part 1. I have attempted to upload this video many times. I'm on my 7th upload right now. I mentioned Roswell and UFOs and Roswell crash debris, stuff from 1947, ancient history, with a twist of some new emails. Part 1 is interesting, but in my opinion, Part 2 is even more interesting. I already made Part 2 before I made Part 1, and I reverse engineered it. So stay tuned, continue to watch Part 1 and Part 2. Maybe I hyped it up a little bit, and I did come to the conclusion, wow, this is not as groundbreaking as I thought it was because of X, Y, and Z. I explain all of that in the video. 100%, I thought it was bigger than it was because I received an email 4 months before someone passed on into the higher dimensions. As far as I know, I can't even say the word dead because Google robots are really controlling every single video I upload these days. It's very unfortunate. I thank you for watching. The information I've held back for 4 years concerns emails from Arthur Haber, brother of the entertainment spokesman for the John Titor story. I thoroughly debunked that story. If you're not familiar with that debunking, feel free to watch this video. Smoking gun proof, John Titor is Maury Haber. In these emails I did release last year, I didn't show the Roswell segments because there were so many tangents on different segments that I wanted to focus on the John Titor information, but this video is all about Roswell, so I'm going to focus on the 3 emails. 2 emails from Arthur Haber and 1 from me, which mentions the son of a Roswell officer connected to a movie which perhaps was never made. Larry Haber perhaps was the representative of someone who claimed to had Roswell metal in their possession. So I thought this was very important information, and you will see why. The first email that mentions Roswell was sent to me on April 22nd, 2013 by Arthur Haber at 4:38 p.m. I've already shared this email in the past, but I didn't share the part concerning Roswell, and I just cut straight to the paragraph that mentions Roswell. Hi John, you and I have a similar passion for this stuff, ... He talks about a lot of different things, and here is the segment on Roswell. Oh yes, did you know Larry was going to make a movie with one of the officers' son from Roswell who passed, and claimed he gave his son physical evidence but then backed out? I don't know the whole story, but you can ask him if you catch him when he is not busy. So that's email number 1, where Arthur is throwing Roswell at me. Why was he throwing Roswell at me? I believe this is authentic information. I believe Larry Haber did work with someone trying to sell a Roswell story in a movie form, whatever the case may be. Arthur says it had to do with a movie. Or perhaps it never came to be. Or the documentary. Perhaps it was canceled. The reason I thought this information was more important than it was because of the date this email was sent to me. This email was sent to me on April 22nd, 2013. And Jesse Marcel Jr., I only recently found out after Googling him, passed away in the year 2013 on August 23rd. Almost exactly 4 months after I received this email. So I thought it was a little suspicious that the story never came about. But when I found out Jesse Marcel Jr. passed, perhaps he was the one, because I was so ignorant on the subject of Roswell, I didn't know which officer's son was being represented by Larry Haber, or in negotiations to be represented. We can rule out Jesse Marcel Jr. Based on what he said when he was alive, we can rule it out, because Jesse Marcel Marcel Jr. never claimed to have a stashed piece of the Roswell medal, but other sons of other officers connected to the Roswell crash did claim to have pieces of the medal. So I had to thoroughly search to find out which son it was. Multiple sources show that a man named Walt Whitmore Jr. admitted to having stored away a piece of the Roswell crashed ship for 45 years, and perhaps still has it or had it up until recently. The Roswell UFO Crash, What They Don't Want You to Know by Cal K. Korff is one example of this information. Walt Whitmore Jr. is the son of the late Walt E. Whitmore, who at the time of the event owned radio station KGFL in Roswell. And I believe the Coast to Coast AM episode I listened to on the radio, or perhaps it was another show, but I don't listen to too many paranormal shows. I believe it was Walt Whitmore Jr. being the one dropping the bombshell that he still has a piece of the Roswell medal. This book confirms that, and another eyewitness to the Roswell debris, Brazel, confirmed what Whitmore said was authentic. You can dig into this forever and be confused as to what's real and what's false, but the fact is, Walt Whitmore Jr. claimed he had a piece of the Roswell medal stored away for 45 years. So Walt Whitmore Jr. would be suspect number one as to being the client of Larry Haber or potential client. Walt Whitman Jr. was also interviewed anonymously under the pseudonym Reluctant, which people figured out. We don't know what became of the debris Walt Whitman Jr. claimed to have had, if he ever even had it. I know so little about this guy, I don't even know if he's still with us. It could be a third party we don't know about, so I would be weary of anyone coming forward claiming to have Roswell debris or any news stories about it, because we do know someone in show business is looking to represent someone selling a Roswell story. But I still find it very interesting, and I thought it was groundbreaking based on the fact that Jesse Marcel Jr. ascended 4 months after I received this email. So despite the fact that it's not as groundbreaking information as I thought it was, I'm pretty ignorant when it comes to the exact key players of the Roswell case. So I'm researching and learning every day on the subject, but I'm going to focus on the memory medal because it's the most important part of the story, in my opinion. But let's go to my reply to Arthur. I sent this email April 23rd, 2013 at 5:04 p.m. Hi Arthur, ... cut down to the segment about Roswell. I did hear about the Roswell son on Coast to Coast, if it's the same person. Supposedly, he had a piece of the wreck stashed away all these years. If it was the metal that could not be destroyed and retained its shape, that would be quite a story. I've been unable to locate the exact interview I heard. Perhaps it was a rerun from many years prior. Perhaps it was a tiny segment of Walt Whitmore Jr. talking about the material he had stored away in his safe. Supposedly there's an interview back in the 90s where he mentions this. Just because the Whitmores had some of the crash material, it doesn't mean it's necessarily the exotic memory metal. Here is a testimony from Whitmore Sr. Most of what I found was white, linen-like cloth with reflective tinfoil attached to one side. One of the larger pieces of foiled cloth, measuring about 8 by 12 inches, had writing on the cloth side. Someone had used a pencil to do some figuring, arithmetic. There were no words, only numbers. I did not see any writing or marking on any of the other debris. There could have been some top-secret balloon wreckage. It was cleaned up by the government very quickly and very thoroughly, whatever it was. It could even have been something as exotic as one of the first satellites to be attempted to be launched into space. This satellite footage is from the 1960s, but based on the wreckage found by Whitmore Sr., it does appear it could have been man-made. The Roswell UFO crash was in 1947. 10 years later, the first satellite to be launched into outer space was by the Soviet Union in 1957, Sputnik 1. So perhaps there was a secret space race of the first satellite, perhaps this was our failed satellite, or one of the competition space program satellites that happened to crash in Roswell. The final email Arthur Haber sent me on the subject of Roswell is the following. It was sent to me on April 24th, 2013 at 6:27 a.m. Hi John, ... cut down to the Roswell part, on Roswell, the sun, and the metal. Yes, that is the same, I believe. And Larry has spent much time on this, and with him personally. He was legal counsel, and maybe a title in the film they were going to make. I'll ask him more tomorrow. Did you want to chat with Larry? I appreciate your time and listening. I won't burden you with my stories unless asked, but I will follow up with the family on Teeter and Roswell, and let you know what I learn. That was the final email on the Roswell subject from Arthur Haber. I wasn't too interested back then, and I'm still not too interested in following down that rabbit hole right now, because I already know if I were to follow up, I would just be given a chain of information which led probably nowhere. Doing your own research is one of the ways you can find the truth, which is what I do. I'm an independent investigator. The Roswell information from Arthur was clearly a distraction from John Teeter and his brother being John Teeter, but it doesn't mean it's not true information. I do believe Larry Haber probably did represent someone trying to cash in on a Roswell-themed movie or documentary or book. There is a guy who recently just came out claiming that in 1965 he saw the memory metal with his own hands. As a teacher, he claims a student brought in the memory metal from Roswell in to show and tell in the 5th grade class. He tried to cut it, he couldn't cut it. He tried to destroy it with a pen, he could not pierce it. He tried to crush it up, it popped back into shape. He said there was a shiny side and a dull gray side, exactly describing everything about the eyewitnesses who saw it, even down to the dimensions 5 inches by 5 inches. His name is Dr. Jerry Croth. His book just came out on June 21st of this year, 2017. It is entitled Extraterrestrial Contacts, the Roswell Foil, UFOs, and How They Impact Our Understanding of the Modern World. I have researched Dr. Croth, and I've watched the 2 prominent YouTube videos where he talks about his first-hand witness of the Roswell memory metal in 1965. I haven't come to a solid conclusion as to whether he's telling the truth or not. I'm not a ufologist. I'm the type of investigator that thoroughly researches something before I come to the conclusion of whether it's true or not. If true, his story seems almost too good to be true, but it could be true. It is in the realm of possibility. He did try to track down the girl that brought in the memory metal for show and tell. No surprise, he's unable to find her, but this was 1965, so her last name has changed. So it's understandable he can't find her, but he does seem to have put forth some effort in compiling the different testimonies of the many different witnesses of this Roswell memory metal. This information is already freely available online, but here is a preview of his book on Google Books, and you can see that he did thoroughly categorize and list the different eyewitnesses. I will continue to investigate the claims of Dr. Jerry Croth. He sent out a survey to like 100 scientists to find out what this material was. It does seem he was somewhat serious in trying to logically explain what it was. He said at the time he thought it was some space-age NASA experimental type material and nothing out of this world like from Roswell. But he did receive answers from scientists claiming it was Kevlar, nitinol, various different run-of-the-mill ordinary materials that may be space-age, but they can't be crushed in your hand, let go, and resume its original shape with 0 creases. 0 creases, and unable to be cut or stabbed, is extremely different from all of the earthly created materials we have, where everything creases and everything can be scratched. This material material couldn't even be scratched. So I'm going to follow up, I'm going to continue to investigate Dr. Croft's claims, and I'm going to continue to investigate the memory metal specifically. After thoroughly researching the different angles of the memory metal, I have come to the conclusion it might have actually existed, it might be real. Is it from an extraterrestrial civilization? Is it from the future? Are time travelers somehow responsible for this exotic, extremely over-the-top advanced material that heals itself, repairs itself, has a memory, can't be scratched, can't be cut, can't be dented, and if it is dented, it pops back into place? Such a material would change the entire planet. Part 2, I'm going to focus on this memory metal and continuing to investigate whether this stuff exists. But stay tuned for Part 2. I do believe some answers on the memory metal are contained in Part 2 of this special series on Roswell. I thank you for watching. This has been John Rasmus. Be seeing you. Thank you.